So I think as of the past year, the Google Pixel phones are really starting to get a lot more adoption. Like, I've pretty much never seen a Pixel 1 through 5 in the wild, but last year I saw a lot of people with the Pixel 6 on buses, in public, just random people using the phone. And now, with the Google Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, we have a better lineup than ever. But of course, even though these are all impressive phones, they have quite a few differences. The Pixel 7 Pro, selling for $899, is a lot more than the $599 Pixel 7, which is also a lot more than the $449 Pixel 6a, which I've also seen for discounts as well. But when you're looking at these phones, what are the differences between them? Because on paper, there are quite a few similarities. And honestly, after using the Pixel 6a and the 7 Pro, there's probably more similarities than you might expect, considering the Pixel 7 Pro is literally double the price. So in this video, I'm going to dive into the differences between these phones from a camera test, the physical differences. We'll talk about some of the specs, but more importantly, the differences when you're actually using these phones on a day-to-day basis. But before we get into the display and other aspects of the design, I kind of want to zoom out and talk about the aesthetics of these phones. So the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro have a new design compared to the Pixel 6 last year, where the camera bar is more continuous with the rail around the outside. It matches, it's a smooth finish right there. It really is a nice look in my opinion. They also got rid of the two-tone appearance that we see on the Pixel 6a and the other 6s as well. Now it's just white and white, but there are 3 colors for each of these phones, where there's a black, a white, and some variation of a green as well. Of course, the Pixel 7 Pro is the largest of the group, and with that, we're getting an extra camera on the back. We're also getting probably a more premium aesthetic with the glossy camera bar, but I would argue that many people might even prefer the matte camera bar of the Pixel 7, because even though they're both aluminum, you're not going to get as many fingerprints on the 7, you're not going to get as many visible scratches, as you can see on my 7 Pro already, scratches all over that camera bar. You're not really going to see any of that on the matte camera bar on the Pixel 7. Now the Pixel 6a has a very different appearance, just a solid black camera bar no matter what color you get, and with that kind of adds a layer of mystery around like where the cameras are. I don't know, I think it looks kind of cool, but you know, I think the metallic camera bar definitely looks a bit better. Now the rails around these phones also match, so glossy aluminum rails on the Pro, matte aluminum rails on the regular 7, and the 6a has slightly different, like it doesn't really continue up into the camera bar, so a little bit more of a distinct cutoff there, and they don't specify exactly what it is. They say it's a metal alloy, so probably some type of aluminum as well. On the back of these phones, you really won't notice any other differences, although we don't have wireless charging on the Pixel 6a, but we do have that on the 7 and the 7 Pro. Flipping over to the front of these, they have a lot of similarities here as well. They all have a boxy design, really similar with the aspect ratio, the fingerprint sensor under the screen on all of these, really similar camera cutout on all of them, but the displays are definitely different. So 6.7-inch display, obviously the largest with the 7 Pro, and then we've got a 6.3 and a 6.1 as we go down. But the Pixel 6a and the 7 both have a flat display, and with that, you can see the bezels a little bit more around the outside, whereas the 7 Pro, you really don't see the bezels nearly as much because of that kind of curved edge on there. And with that curved edge, you get a nicer feeling edge too. So the 6a is fine, but the 7, I find that it's kind of a sharp edge around the outside, so using it can get a little bit uncomfortable. Back to the actual displays themselves, we have a better resolution on the 7 Pro, being Quad HD, while the other two are just HD, so 1080p displays. And of course, we have 120 Hz, 90 Hz, 60 Hz, right down the line with those displays. But in all practicality, using all of them, they're all bright, they all have great color. I don't have any issue with any of these displays. Even though the 6a is 60 Hz and it's 1080p, I still think, especially for the price, Google really made the right compromises there. And I think the display really does a decent enough job. Now, of course, they also all have always-on displays, which is nice, but the only other difference here that you probably can't actually see is the glass that's being used. So we have Gorilla Glass Victus on the front and the back of the 7 and the 7 Pro, which is more shatter resistant, but I really recommend getting a tempered glass screen protector because you can definitely scratch those. The Pixel 6a is Gorilla Glass 3, so slightly more prone to shattering, and with that, a slightly lower quality of water resistance, being IP67 versus 68. You're probably never going to notice a difference there. One thing that all of these phones do have is a very, very, very slippery design. So rounded edges, especially on the 7 Pro, like being a larger phone. Like I have pretty large hands, and even like I'm using this phone, I drop it all the time. So that's a big advantage actually. Probably the biggest advantage of getting the 6A is that it is much more pocketable and much more palm friendly as well. Like it's really easy to reach around the phone and never, like I would never drop this phone. Now, I want to take a guess and say that one of the main reasons you're watching this video is probably because you're curious about the differences in the cameras between these phones. And there are quite a few differences that we need to talk about. But first I want to say, if you're new here, please do consider clicking that subscribe button. Really means a lot to me. Now, the cameras between these phones, they all have, like I said, pretty good cameras. Google does a lot with the software, but looking at them one by one, now the primary camera on the 7 and the 7 Pro is 50 megapixels, while the 6A is just 12 megapixels, but don't be fooled by the megapixel count. You're getting pixel binning anyway, so they all come out to about the same resolution and size photo, and really the big difference you'll see with the 7 and the 7 Pro is better low light performance, and for me, more importantly, because you have a larger sensor on there, you get a better natural bokeh. So if you take a picture of something kind of close up, you're gonna get a better natural blur, but they all do a pretty decent job of that. You're getting a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle lens on all of them. On the 7 Pro, the ultra-wide lens can also double as a macro lens, kind of a fun little feature there. And other than that, you don't have a telephoto lens on the 6A or the 7. They both cap out at 8x max digital zoom, whereas the 7 Pro, this is one of the big differences, one of the reasons to consider upgrading. You have a 45 megapixel 5x optical lens that gives you up to 30x max zoom. So you're getting a really high quality zoomed in lens. So if you're further away from your kids at a soccer game or an animal or whatever, it really does a fantastic job of taking those photos. Now, like I said, Google's main thing here is computational photography. So even though you have a less capable sensor on the 6A, you're still getting, in most lighting conditions, an equivalent shot. Now, the big difference that I noticed is not necessarily with photos, but more so with videos, especially low light videos. You will be getting better performance on the 7 and the 7 Pro. And for that matter, just videos in general are definitely substantially better on the 7 and the 7 Pro in really every environment. Now, you're also getting some new camera modes here on the 7 and the 7 Pro. For example, cinematic mode. It's limited to 1080p, unfortunately, but you are able to do that thing that like Apple did it last year. You can focus on different things and have like a basically portrait mode, but in a video format. Now, of course, all three of these phones have Google's classic suite of features, like Hold For Me and the Now Playing feature that shows you what song you're listening to and things like that. But there are some different features that you're getting only on the 7 and the 7 Pro. So for one, you do have the Face Unlock, which is a new thing that Google's adding, even though it's only using the camera, like there's no infrared sensors. So theoretically, it could also show up on the Pixel 6a in an update, but at least for now, it's only on the 7 and the 7 Pro. Google's also coming out with a VPN. I think you might have to pay for that. They said it's free, but I think the asterisk is with Google One, so if you pay for that, who knows? We'll see when that actually comes out. Otherwise, under the hood with these, you're getting some differences. The Tensor G2, the second generation Tensor chip on here, from benchmarks is a lot faster than the first gen, but all things considered, the 6A is a pretty snappy phone. For a mid-range phone running last year's flagship phone processor, I think is pretty decent. But with the lower price, you have to expect Google's going to give you less memory, so 6 gigabytes of RAM on the 6A, and then 8 and 12. So if you're multitasking, obviously, I mean, plus you have a bigger display, but the 7 Pro is going to be better. Additionally, if you want to upgrade your storage, you only have, like, you don't have any options with the 6A. All of them start with base level 128 gigabytes. The 6A, that's it. The 7, you can upgrade to 256 gigs, and the 7 Pro, you can go up to 512. But of course, with all three of them, if you want more storage, like Google Drive and Google Photos are really great options. They do all support eSIM because they only have one SIM card slot on there. Okay, so in conclusion, between the three of them, obviously, if money is your concern, the 6A absolutely crushes it, and the introduction of the 7 and the 7 Pro doesn't change anything. This is still a fantastic phone, easily the best mid-range phone in my opinion, because not only is it $450, but last week I saw this on sale for $350, which is really just mind-blowing. But then between the 7 and the 7 Pro, it really gets difficult. Obviously, if money's no option, the 7 Pro is definitely the best phone, but that kind of leaves the awkward middle child of the Pixel 7. Like, who is this phone really for? Well, I think, honestly, I probably wouldn't recommend this phone to anybody. If you get it, I'm sure you're gonna love it, don't get me wrong, but I would say if you're tighter on money and you don't wanna buy the 7 Pro, just go all the way down to the 6A. You're really getting a similar experience. Like I said, almost all the same features, almost the same quality of camera, and really a similar size as well between the 6A and the 7. So smaller phones are gonna be happy with this as well. But if you want that larger phone, if you want more cameras, you might as well go with the 7 Pro and get the telephoto lens and the larger display as well. So that's my take on it. I kind of do wish the 7 Pro had matte rails on there so you don't show scratches and fingerprints, but otherwise it kind of feels like the 7 is just a middle child just to kind of justify the difference in price and not leave anyone in the middle. But leave a comment, let me know what your thoughts are between these phones. Would you buy the 7 Pro, the 7, or would you go with the budget-friendly Pixel 6a? If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. I'm Mike O'Brien. See you next time.